I could see in the last edit that I hadn't quite found a way to say what I wanted to. We walked along the path, this time going south to see how far it went. Eventually it ended. We stood in the graveyard unsure of which way to go. We stood in the road looking at the map on my cell phone trying to discern where we were. We circled around some area. The graves seemed to multiply in every direction. I noticed some of the tombstones were big enough for two, for a husband and a wife to be buried in the same plot. I've begun to realize more recently how seriously people take the afterlife. To me, it has always been a given that when we die, we are dead in the dirt, and that is the extent of it. A minivan and two other cars were parked on the road. A family sat, some lawn chairs and a cooler filled with drinks, mourning someone, picnicking with the dead. I noticed the wooden cross propped up on the dashboard of the minivan as we passed. I sit here now, reminiscing, in my sweatpants and my Crocs, and I think of the effort it takes to believe in God. It has a way of transcending the intellect in a way that I am unable to reconcile. On Shabbat, Nora sits in her high chair. She looks around at us as we say a prayer and light the candles. As we say a prayer for the grape juice. As we say a prayer for the bread that Miriam's mother has made. Nora always becomes quiet when we do this. I can recognize a kind of awe on her 1-year-old face. It is different than the dumb stare that overtakes her when she sees a video playing on a screen. For me, a non-religious, mostly atheist person, it's clear to me that that slight sense of awe is good. Through my existential spiraling, maybe it would do me good to sort out where I stand with all of it, to establish some kind of integrity to balance my worldview on, instead of the dubious agnosticism that I have settled for. In the night, I woke up with a splitting headache, and Miriam woke as well. She asked me what the matter was. I explained the pain to her. She went downstairs and came back with an ice pack. She wrapped it in a dishcloth and put it onto my pillow. She rested her hand onto my head until I slept again. I thought of those gravestones that we saw, that were fit for two. I imagined us as skeletons in the dirt, waking up in 1,000 years, my skull broken open, aching and filled with dirt, and her hand reached out towards my head until I fall asleep again. The part of the ego that demands to be the one who is in control, that thinks it can hold all of everything in its mind. The skull must break open in order to make room for it all. The extent of my belief system is not very well developed. It is not complicated in its intricacy, but rather it is a mess. I understand the God-shaped hole that is there. Sometimes I go and look at it, and I read the tourist plaque. I appreciate what's there. I appreciate the things that we must put into the God category, because they are beyond our ability to articulate. And there are times where I take comfort in it all. When I die, I imagine being butchered more or less like a cow, to be separated into as many crock pots as it will take to fit all of me in, and to be cooked into brisket. I hope that the recipe will resemble the one that my mother used to make the brisket she made for us growing up. It is not too dissimilar to the one my mother-in-law, Nora's Yaya, uses. We have 2 crock pots here at the house, but we will need a few more to make this happen in the way I'm imagining it. I'm unconcerned for the most part of where we came from with the origins of existence. I believe in the strangeness of sex and pregnancy and birth, that between some goo and some eggs in 9 months, that something that is too big to fit through a hole that small can do so, and that a little creature emerges, and that little creature contains all the love that there ever was. At Nora's 12-month checkup, the doctor told us that it was normal for babies to get constipated when they switched to whole milk. She said to give Nora fruits that started with the letter P: prunes, pears, pineapples, anything like that. The nurse came to help give Nora her shots. As the needle pierced through her skin, I saw the look on her face change from wonder to betrayal. She screamed hysterically and tried to thrash away from all of us, but was soon calmed by some stickers that the nurse gave her. On the drive home, I watched her in the rear-view mirror as she slept in her car seat and saw that Miriam napped beside her. When we came home, I sat and went over the edit that I worked on that morning. For the most part, I was unhappy with what I had come up with. I began to rewrite some of the sentences to try to understand what the hell the point of all of it was. As my frustration began to build, I heard Nora crying from her bedroom. It seemed more intense and persistent than usual. I could hear Miriam trying to console her, but to of no avail. I went into the bedroom to see them. I took the orange cat stuffed animal that I'd bought Nora for her birthday and tried to settle her with it. I touched my hand to her hair, but it did nothing to calm her scream. Miriam explained that she had a poo stuck in her butt and it was too hard for her to get out. She tried putting Vaseline on it and to cycle her legs into bicycle kicks, but it made no difference. We ran a warm bath for her, but it also made no difference. Nora stood in the water, screaming and holding on to Miriam for dear life. She looked up at me in despair, but no amount of assurance I could offer her helped. We gave up on the bath and dressed her in a fuzzy onesie. We brought her downstairs to see if the change of scenery would help, but the hysteria persisted. Her voice quivered and hiccuped as she gasped for air between the screams. After another 15 minutes or so of us failing to console her, her yaya came upstairs. She spoke softly, in a way that cut through Nora's scream and got her attention. Nora looked towards the staircase and up at her yaya as she passed through the baby gate. "Should we say a prayer?" Yaya said to Nora. Nora still cried. "We pray that the poo will come out of your little butt and that it will stop being so mean and stop being so hurty to you, and that you will not be sad anymore. And we pray to the Poo God for Nora to have her poo come out of her butt and for it never to bother her ever again." And with that, Nora's cry began to settle and she became calm again.